Hello students, today we will discuss about the servo motor. This motor might be you studied in the control system where you studied about the various application of the servo motor. Here I will discuss the construction part and the application part of the servo motor. Actually, servo motor is a small size motor which is particularly used for the precise speed and the position control. Mainly, this motor is used where you have to move the motor at a particular position or at a particular angle. The basic principle of operation of this motor is similar as that of other electromagnetic motor, but its construction and design and mode of operation are different. Their power ratings are vary from fraction of a watt up to a few hundred watts, and it is having a low inertia, and due to their low inertia it have a high speed of response. That is why they are smaller in diameter but larger in length. Let me show you the original diagram of the servo. See, this is a servo motor. They are generally operate at very low speeds or sometimes zero speed, or it may be operate at a very high speed. So servo motor is differ in application capabilities from larger industrial motors. So what are the difference? They produce high torque at all speed including zero speed. This is the main feature of this motor. It can be operate at a zero speed. They are capable of handling a static position, that is no motion position, and they do not overheat at standstill or lower speed, as we studied that at no load or at a lower speed the motor overheats, but the main capability of this motor, it do not overheat at standstill or lower speed, and due to the lower inertia they are able to reverse direction quickly, means its direction can be reversed very easily, and this motor are able to accelerate and decelerate quickly. That's why this motor is suitable in vehicles. They are able to return to a given position time after time without any drift. So these are the some features of this motor. Mainly servo motor can be operated on DC and AC. So it can be differentiate on the basis of its operation. So there are two types of servo motor, DC servo motor and AC servo motor. So let's start the DC servo motor. This is the circuit for DC servo motor. DC servo motor is basically a separately excited DC motor, or it may be a permanent magnet DC motor. The speed of DC motor or DC servo motor is normally controlled by varying the armature voltage, because this armature voltage can be vary very easily, and by varying this voltage the speed of the motor can be controlled. And what is the difference, major difference between the DC motor and the DC servo motor? The DC servo motor's armature has a large resistance, so that the torque speed characteristic are linear and have a large negative slope. Look the torque speed characteristic of the motor. See this is the torque speed characteristic, where the characteristic is more linear and have a large negative slope, means at zero speed torque is very high, and as the speed is increases torque is decreases very deeply, means it has a large negative slope. And this large negative slope provides viscous damping for the servo drive system. See here, field MMF and the armature MMF means the MMF of this field and the MMF of this armature are at the quadrature. Both are at quadrature. So the step change in the armature voltage or current produce a quick change in the position or speed of the motor. This is the main feature of this motor, that armature MMF and field MMF both are at 90 degree, so that the small step change means if motor can be moved from 0 degree to 30 degree, 60 degree, 90 degree, 180 degree means the position of the rotation of the motor can be reversed very easily. So the one more important thing of the servo motor is that it is not connected directly to the electrical line. It is always go through the controller. Here one controller is always there which control the speed of the motor. So servo motor is always connected to the line through the controller. Let's see the AC servo motor. AC servo motor is basically two-phase AC servo motor. In AC servo motor, it is usually supplied by a two-phase supply. As we discussed this two-phase supply in Scott connection. If you remember that in transformer we have studied about the Scott connection, and Scott connection is the connection which provides the two-phase supply. And similar that two-phase supply we used in this AC servo motor. So there are two windings, one is control phase and second is reference phase. Reference phase has a fixed phase which is supplied from a constant voltage Vm at an angle 0 degree, and this winding is known as a control winding, or it is a control phase which is supplied with a voltage which is displaced by a 90 degree from this reference phase. This control phase is always supplied by a servo amplifier. One amplifier is there which supply this control phase. Here the speed and the torque both can be controlled by controlling the phase difference between the control phase and the reference phase. Here also a armature has a high resistance. So a high resistance ensure a negative slope for the torque speed characteristic. Let's see the torque speed characteristic of this is the speed torque characteristic of the servo motor. Here also it is similar to the DC servo motor. It is also have a very steep negative slope for the torque slip characteristic, and it here the entire operating range we got the negative slope, and we can see for the different load like 0 per unit, at 0.5 per unit, for Va is equal to 0.75 per unit, Va is equal to 1 per unit. For variable armature voltage, we got a linear characteristic throughout the operating range. So mainly this servo motor is also used for the position control in a vehicles. So this was the two-phase AC servo motor. Three-phase AC servo motor can also be used, and this three-phase servo motors can be used for the very high speed and the high torque. That's all. This was the brief description of the servo motors. There are two types of servo motor, AC servo motor and DC servo motor. So students studied this both the motors. If you have any confusion or doubt, you can ask. Thank you. Have a nice day.